Weight loss part 4. Let's discuss reverse dieting. So maybe you have said, I reached my goal, or I like how I look and I want to end my fat loss phase. Now what? One of the biggest mistakes is to just let up on the gas pedal and just go back to not tracking data, do what you were doing before the fat loss phase, and not being intentional about total calorie intake or macros. After your cut is done, truly, this is where the real work comes in, reversing back to maintenance. Maintenance requires effort and intention and is a place where people get way too lax and comfortable, and why they'll see weight regain after their fat loss phases. The weight slowly creeps back and you're back to square one. Rinse and repeat for years. It doesn't have to be this way. So we should not be in a chronic or long term calorie deficit, but after a fat loss phase, we advise reverse dieting out and keeping a lot of the habits that you developed during your cut. So, a reverse diet is a planned, organized approach to slowly increasing your calorie intake from your fat loss calories up to your new maintenance calories while maintaining your weight and body composition. Essentially, it's an after diet plan to get out of the calorie deficit, get out of that low energy availability state, LEA state, back to an OEA, optimal energy availability state, while avoiding rebounding and regaining the weight that you lost. Basically, you will somewhat reverse the steps you took to achieve your fat loss, one step at a time. Slowly reversing calorie intake and gradually reducing cardio with a focus on strength training to go back to a building muscle phase. Slowly reversing over the course of a few weeks and a few months allows your body to catch up with the food being added so that you don't reverse all the progress you made in the fat loss phase. And remember, maintenance is where the magic happens. Being at maintenance is where you can go back to focus on building muscle and other fitness goals you may have. Your body will have more energy so that systemically you function better as a whole, better cognition, better gut health, better mood, and so much more. Truly, you should be so excited about this part. You'll likely get better body composition results and like how your body looks better while doing maintenance recomposition phases relative to more and more fat loss phases. Your energy levels and body composition will improve while you're eating at maintenance with a focus on building muscle and living an active life for several months. Plus, the more muscle tissue that we have, this requires more energy to maintain that fat, leading to a higher basal metabolic rate overall. Additionally, because you are eating more, you're often, as a byproduct, engaging in more non exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT, like walking, fidgeting, or other forms of light activity. So, higher energy intake, more food, and higher energy out. This increases in NEAT with a feed forward cycle, further contributing to a higher maintenance calorie level, enhancing the overall effectiveness of body recomposition and energy utilization. So just know that if at the end of your first cut, if you still want to lose more weight, that's totally fine. You can return back to a fat loss phase in a few months. But if you're just trying to get, 4 or 5 or so of those remaining pounds off for the sake of toning up, you're probably better off focusing on mastering maintenance calories and focusing on strength training for several months rather than jumping into another fat loss phase soon. You would be surprised at the body composition changes you'll make at maintenance. So, just something to think about before you automatically assume another fat loss attempt is what you need. Do you really need to do a ton of fat loss phases as shown on the left, where you go maintenance cut, maintenance cut, maintenance cut? Or should you do a fat loss phase, then go back to maintenance for several months, focusing on strengthening your habits, building more muscle, focusing on body recomposition for several months before even considering doing another fat loss phase? Fat loss is very valuable, but really maintenance is where the magic happens. So let's discuss the reverse diet plan. We don't want to rush this process. We want to take it slow to avoid weight regain. You may see some additional weight loss as you reverse out, which is fine, but the goal is to find when our weight stabilizes and get there slowly. So week 1, add 100 calories to your daily macros in the form of energy macros, so carbs and fat. For example, add 5 grams of fat and 13 grams of carbs, or 10 grams of fat and 2 grams of carbs. Remove one of your zone 2 sessions and drop down to 12,000 steps per day if you were higher than that. Stay with these macros and exercise plan for 7 days and assess your weekly weight average. The rate at which we add calories day to day is going to slow down week to week, but the goal of week 1 is to get out of a steep deficit. Now, week 2, we're going to add 50 calories instead of 100 calories to your macros in the form of energy macros, so carbs and fat. So add 2 grams of fat and 8 grams of carbs. You'll maintain the same amount of zone 2 sessions, but drop down to 10,000 steps per day. Again, stay with these macros for 7 days and assess your weekly weight average. Week 3, again, add 50 calories to your macros in the form of energy macros, ideally more carbs. So you can add 12 grams of carbs or 2 grams of fat and 8 grams of carbs. At this point, you should be at around 2 to 3 strength workouts per week, 2 zone 2 sessions, and 10,000 steps per day. You can reduce down to 1 zone 2 session per week if you'd like, or you can keep both in. But honestly, we'd recommend keeping this active lifestyle and shooting for close to this amount of activity level week to week as kind of a forever lifestyle habit. So 2 to 3 strength workouts, 1 to 2 zone 2, and 10,000 steps per day. As your calories, which are your recovery resources, get higher and higher week to week, you can add a sprint session and replace one of your zone 2 instead if that is something that you enjoy. However, remember, rest days are good. You do not and should not be working out every single day. All right, week 4. Oh, just kidding. This slide, let's just briefly review that exercise volume that I like to see for life. So again, strength sessions 2 to 3 times per week, zone 2 session 1 to 2 times per week, steps try to hit 10,000-ish, 8 to 10,000-ish per day. And then optional, you can start to add 1 sprint session as your calories get higher. We don't want to do that too early on in the reverse diet because again, your calories are still low. All right, back to week 4. Now we're going to be dropping down to adding 30 calories to your macros in the form of energy macros, so carbs and fat. So you can add 1 gram of fat and 5 grams of carbs, or preferably just 7 grams of carbs. Again, maintain that exercise volume. And I know that these increments like 30 calories seem small and feel like they are within the margin of error. They probably are, but slowly over time, they add up. Week 5, again, add 30 calories to your macros, now in whatever form you would like, carbs, fat, or protein. And then you'll continuously do this over time. Monitor your body weight as often as you can, at least 3 times, ideally closer to 6 to 7 times per week, because the better that you can stay on track of your body weight trends, the better you will be able to reap the rewards of all the hard work you put in with the fat loss phase and keep that weight that you lost off. The goal with the reverse diet is to have more energy day to day, eat more food, and be able to push yourself more in the gym so that you can get back to building muscle. So that was a lot of numbers. Let's just look at an example. So let's say that at the end of your fat loss phase, your macros were 220 grams of carbs, 45 grams of fat, and 110 grams of protein. This is that top row. So you were at about 1,725 calories. So that is where you ended your fat loss phase, and then reverse 1 diet week, you're going to add 100 calories. Week 2, you'll add 50 calories. Week 3, you'll add 50 calories. And then starting on week 4, we'll add 30 calories and then add 30 calories each week, all while monitoring our weight and making sure that our weekly average week-to-week weigh-in is staying consistent. So with this slow reverse diet, at week 1, you're at 1,745 calories. And then by week 10, you're at 2,139 calories. And then you can likely continue to increase for a bit more, all while monitoring your energy, gym performance, and body weight. Yes, this is slow, but the point is to give your body time to adjust metabolically without gaining weight. You can likely increase slightly faster and be fine. So if you are experiencing negative health problems, you can definitely increase at a slightly quicker rate, but you don't want to start gaining weight. So when you start to see an increase in the weight on the scale, then maybe just stay at that calorie level for a period of time and assess your week-to-week average weigh-ins. So let's just return to our macro suggestions that we provided in the earlier nutrition modules in this course. So we want to, again, find our maintenance, right? And so once we're at our maintenance, I suggest having a dietary fat intake of around 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram body weight. For protein, 0.6 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight is sufficient. Eating beyond that level in research studies doesn't show improvements in your muscle protein synthesis or gym performance. and then fill the rest of your calories with carbs. However, you can tweak to an amount where you feel objectively at your best. You will not be able to continuously add calories for life and get to like 10,000, 12,000 calories. Humans do have a limited metabolic rate. And so the goal is to find your new maintenance calories where you can feel and function at your best, meaning great energy, your hormones are in a good place, you're sleeping great, your temps are great, you're able to push yourself in your gym and achieve your fitness goals. Once you reach an amount of food you're comfortable with, I would suggest trying to reach a minimum of 2,100 calories. Sit here at maintenance for several months and figure out some new goals. Pushing maintenance calories as high as we can is advantageous to optimizing overall health, metabolism, and gym performance, but we don't want to see weight regain, so assess week to week average trends. Maybe you're just happy to be where you are and want to learn to eat intuitively and stop tracking macros, or maybe you want to keep increasing food and go for some serious gains at the gym. Whatever it may be, have a plan and execute. You can accomplish anything and everything you set your mind to. We believe in you. So we hope that this fat loss information helps empower you to live a more active life. A fat loss phase will not destroy your metabolism if it's done properly. And for many people, they can improve their health and confidence by losing fat. However, we do not want to be in a chronic diet phase, as this will have negative impacts on your health and metabolism. Tracking your macronutrient intake will allow you to be strategic with your fat loss phase and reverse diet phase and cause the least amount of harm. You don't have to track macros for forever, but this can be a very great tool to tweak and track progress over time as you work on losing fat and optimizing metabolism.